Next example asks about negative, that is opposite of the absolute value of 3/5, opposite of the absolute value of negative 8/10. Now we have a bit of a problem here in that it's difficult to determine which one is greater or less when they're written in such different notations. So let's solve part of that problem by changing the 3/5 to a decimal or the 8/10 to a fraction. I've chosen to change 3/5 to a decimal. 3/5 means when we divide 5 into 3, we get 0. We place our decimal, affix a 0, divide 5 into 30 and get 6. 6 times 5 is 30. So that means that 3/5 is the same as 6/10. And so we have opposite of the absolute value of 6/10, opposite of the absolute value of negative 8/10. Then, following our rule for working within the expressions first, we'll take the absolute value of 6/10, which is 6/10. We'll take the absolute value of negative 8/10, which is 8/10. The opposite symbols stay with us, and we have the opposite of 6/10, opposite of 8/10. The opposite of 6/10 is negative 6/10. The opposite of 8/10 is negative 8/10. And so we'll place negative 6/10 and negative 8/10 together to determine which one is less. Negative 6/10 would be to the left of 0, going 6/10 of the way down, so that would be somewhere right about here. Opposite of 8/10 or negative 8/10 is 8/10 of the way down toward negative 1. Negative 6/10 is to the right of negative 8/10. That means the symbol here must be greater. Therefore, at the beginning, the symbol would be greater. So, opposite of the absolute value of 3/5 is greater than the opposite of the absolute value of negative 8/10. Exercises for you to try. I believe we can get them all on the screen this time. I've given you 3 exercises. Place the correct symbol, and I'm giving you 3 choices: less than, greater than, or equal to. Place the correct symbol, less than, greater than, or equal to, between the 2 numbers. Exercise number 1, the 2 numbers are negative 15 and negative 14. For exercise 2, the 2 numbers are absolute value of negative 5 1/3, opposite of negative 16/3. For exercise 3, 1 3/10, opposite of 2 6/10. Copy these 3 exercises, stop the tape, work the problems, and then turn the tape back on to check the answers. Negative 15 is less than negative 14. For number 2, absolute value of negative 5 1/3 is equal to the opposite of negative 16/3. For number 3, 1 3/10 is greater than the opposite of 2 6/10. This concludes our first tape number 051.